Thank you. Buongiorno a tutti. As was just said, it's a good thing that my talk is right now. I was really excited to hear about other people talking about using Django in the backend, and especially this morning Tom Christie, whose talk showed me that we're really going in the same. Everyone is going in the same direction. So before I get started, who am I? So my name is Emma. My name is Emma. I'm an average developer. I love working with Django. I'm a woman who codes. I'm someone who's prone to burnout, and this is something that we don't talk enough in our profession, so I'm saying it. And I co-founded a small software company called Levit, and we work mainly with Django and Ember. So here's a small disclaimer. There are going to be some code samples, and there might be a bit more of Ember.js than any other front-end framework. So since there are going to be code samples, I felt obligated to sacrifice the cute kitten, as everybody knows. So I don't know about you, but when I first started using Django, I fell in love with the admin. The admin is what made me love Django. And why do I love the admin? Well, because I'm a bit lazy. And this is all I have to type in. Once my model is created, this is all I have to type in to be able to have an admin, a working admin. But the problem is that nowadays, I'm not working with the admin anymore, not so much. I'm working with frontends and with APIs. I'm working with JavaScript clients. And so when I work with APIs, I'm creating a model, and then I have to write all this code. So I'm not sure if everybody can read it, but if you cannot read it, on the left, I have to declare some serializers. I have to declare some view sets. That's for the backend code. Then I have to on the bottom right, I have to register those with the router in my urls.py. And finally, I also have to write the front-end code. As I said, this is Ember. The reason why this code sample is Ember is because it's even more code in Angular or React to be able to do the same thing. And, well, this is what I would really like to write instead of all this code, because I already have my model. And so, as with the admin, I would like to be able to simply register my model with the router and have it magically write my front-end code. Well, actually, it is possible. It is possible thanks to a library called DRF Schema Adapter. DRF Schema Adapter comes with two packages, DRF Auto Endpoint and Exporter App. And so with this library, I'm able to write this and to type manage.py export all instead of magically export all. And so, yeah, this is the page from the code. So DRF Schema Adapter has a goal to provide a toolset to help create fully dynamic clients from Django and Django REST framework. And I'm going to show you how it works. The first thing it provides is fast prototyping. It does that thanks to the endpoint class. The endpoint class is very similar to the Django admin class, the model admin class. So it can be very simple. You just need to declare the endpoint and tell the model it's going to use. So the first line you actually need, the only line you actually need is model equals product. And then, as with the admin, you can declare other properties like search field, filter fields, or ordering field. And the endpoint is going to inspect those properties and import the necessary backends into Django REST framework to allow you to do filtering and stuff like that. Now, if you want to do something more complex, like with the admin, if you want to use a non-standard form, you want to create your own form, then all you have to do is tell the admin that you're going to use that form class instead of the auto-generated form class. Here you can do the same thing, and for example, if you need a complex view set, you can create that complex view set and tell the endpoint to use that view set. And as you can notice, this is not pseudocode. This actually works. And so, as you can notice in the view set, you don't tell Django which query set it has to use, because the endpoint is going to use that view set as base view set, and is going to fill in the blanks. So since you told Django that the model for this endpoint is a product, when it's going to load the view set, it's going to look into the view set and see, oh, I don't have a query set, so since we're using the product model, the query set is going to be product.object.whole. Same thing with the serializer. You can use base serializer, and the schema adapter is going to fill in the blanks for you. Now, regarding the router, as you have seen in the code I want to type, I don't want to have to add lines. So we're using auto-discovery, the same auto-discovery that is used by Django Admin, and it will look into your application for all entry points.py file, for all endpoints.py file, and once it finds one, it's going to load it and to try to register everything that's in it. So you can see here we're using the register decorator on a full endpoint class, and once again, just as with Django Admin, you can directly register a model on the router. This router is not magic, it's just a subclass of the default router proposed by Django REST framework. So here I'm going to show you a couple of code samples. Yes, okay. This is going to be harder than what I thought. I'm not sure everybody can read this. I'm going to zoom in. Okay, so as you can see, to integrate the schema adapter, all you have to do is replace importing the router, the default router from from Django REST framework, with the router from DRF auto endpoint. And if you need to register old style, regular style view sets, you can still use router.register view set to register those. But as far as the other applications are concerned, the other views with the new endpoints, you can then register them directly on your router. So this is the this is the documentation for the schema adapter. Great, it suspended my tab. And yeah, this is basically what you get with the code that I just showed you. Now, I'm going to go a bit further. And back to Vim. I'm going to reload. And so now if I declare here the endpoint code that I just showed you in the slide before that, if I go back here and refresh the page, nothing happens. I'm going to restart my server. I don't think the server didn't notice that I did a git checkout. So now if I refresh that page, okay, you can now see that simply by introducing this endpoint class without changing anything else in the code. I now have endpoints for my two models, which are products and categories. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at this for this demo. I will come back to this if I have a bit more time. But as shown in the code before, we can use a lot of different attributes on those endpoints, like filters, search, and define a lot of other methods. And you can refine your endpoints like that. And if you want to do something really complex, you can register view sets into your endpoints. Or you can use serializers or other things. Oops. OK. But so what about my front-end code? Well, you remember I told you that the arrow schema adapter comes with two packages. There's the arrow photo endpoint and the export app. Now, by using the export app, I'm able to export code from my serializer to my front end. And for that, I'm going to need to add a few settings to my code. There's really not much to add. You have to tell Django which adapter you're going to use for the front end. The adapter is what language should I talk. In this example, it's using the MobX Axios adapter, which is a library that's usable by React. And there are many other adapters, like the Ember adapter or the Angular 2 adapter, for example, that you can use to produce JavaScript code. Now, when I do that and I type manage.py export all, it will produce, in the case of this adapter, it will produce those files. So why would it produce so many files? Well, first of all, there is here with MobX and Axios, there's two files per model. There's a store, and there is a model. The model is the structure of a record, so which fields are in the record. And the store is what will help you to retrieve all the records, update the record, and things like that. And it also creates base files for everything. So for example, now if I change something in my model in Django, I want to re-export everything to the front end. But if I've made some changes in the front end code, let's say I added a method on one of those files, I don't want this to be overwritten. So what happens is that Django will only overwrite the base file. And so if you look at this on the left is the base file, and it has all the important information extracted from Django. And now the regular file will inherit from that class, and this is where you're going to have to put your code, and your custom code will not be overwritten next time you export a file. Here, same thing. So on the right, this is not the model anymore. This is the store. And once again, this here is whatever is custom to that store and that you're going to be able to overwrite. And so I'm going to do a small demo for that too. Yeah, suspended tab. Why did I install this application? OK, so this is a small to-do list. I'm going to try to zoom that in. OK. So this is a simple to-do list application, which is running on Django with React. And everything I do, all I had to do is write the code for this application. I didn't have to write anything from the code because I exported everything from Django, from my model defined in Django. And if I go back to Vim, I can show you. So this here is what is being created by this export. It's been exporting everything from my backend. It has created this file here, to-do list, which import from to-do list. And now in my components, if I go to the to-do list component here, all I have to do is import those store to be able to use them, and I don't have to care about anything. Everything is being generated by Django, and I can start writing my front-end application without worrying about anything. And if something changes on my backend, well, I just re-export my backend into my front-end. So this is nice, but we're still missing some information. We are able to have our models exported to the front end, but Django is much more than just models or serializers, because this is what we are exporting actually. It's not the model, it's the serializer. So if you have a custom serializer for your model, the serializer is going to be exported to the front end and not the model itself. But we're still missing something because, yeah, a model is got string fields, it's got number fields in JavaScript, it's got text areas, but Django is more than that. Django has URL fields, small positive integer fields, it's got email field, it's got dropdown, it's got foreign key and all that, and we don't have this information available yet. For this, we need yet another part of this library, which is the metadata adapter. So we talked about the adapter, the export adapter. This is the meta adapter. It's another adapter. There are two adapters in this library that you don't have to mistake for one another. And this metadata adapter will make available all the information that the front end needs to be able to render some more accurate form or list or whatever you need to render. So for example, here I'm using the Angular Fromly adapter. Fromly is a library for Angular 2. Well, there's a version for Angular 1.2, and it's supposed to work on Angular 4. And this information is going to send you more information. This morning, Tom talked about JSON schema. There's also an adapter for JSON schema. Both Fromly and JSON schema are great to render forms. They're still missing some information. So for Ember, we're using a third adapter, which is the Ember adapter, which gives you a lot more information. If you want to, you can get to this information by doing an options call on a root, but you can also export those thanks to a special adapter in the export app, which will export the metadata call, and will export that either in a JSON file or in an ex6 file. So I'm going to show you how this works. So here, this form is something that's been rendered by Angular and Fromly. And so as you can see, it already allows you to do something a bit more sophisticated. Like, for example, defining that those two fields here should only take half of the screen and be rendered side by side. So let's try to fill in this form. So before I fill in the form, I just want to show you that it works. Yeah, of course, it forgot about my username and password. Okay, so we have two survey objects. I'm going to quickly fill in this survey. Of course, I use Django, and I also use Ember. And my favorite language is Python. Okay. So I'm filling in this form, and as we can see in the admin, I now have a third object. So here, to be able to do that, all I had to write is the definition in Django. So here you can see that we have an endpoint class, as we had before, and we are also using a field set object, which is really close to what the field set object is in the Django admin. And here we are saying that the first field is going to be the full name, and then we're embedding a field set with other fields, and we're passing in other attributes that will be understood by the front end. And by using this in my front end, all I have to do here is on init, I am going to call the, oops, no, that's on submit. On init, I'm going to get the service and get the metadata. This is going to do an option calls on the backend, and it's going to retrieve all the information I need to render this form. So as you can see, we're getting closer and closer to being able to write, to have a dynamic client on the front end without having to write almost any line of code on the front end. Because once again, this service in Angular, this is like the store in React, and so this has been exported by the export -- all command. So building custom adapters. Of course, as I told you, this works with Formly, and this works with React. For React, we have the JSON schema adapter. But what if you have already a front end or something different? Well, it's really easy. You can go see the documentation, and I also expect you to come see me either during the breaks or during the sprints if you want to have help to define a custom adapter. The code for the adapter is quite simple, and you have several things that are available to you for these adapters. And the adapter just gives you a lot of information, and you can decide which information you're going to be using. I forgot to reopen this tab, so I will not be able to show you here live, but I will post something in the Slack, and you can come see me in the sprints. You can define whatever you want to have accessible to the front end in the adapters. So for the metadata, you can say that you want the language. You can say for applications that are translated, for example, if you're using Django model translation, you want to have the languages available. You can have the fields that you want to display in a list form. In a list, for example, the actions that you want to have accessible. So for example, if you have an application and you want to have something that happens, you want a button to be able to open an invoice, for example, you can have that, and you can see me. You can come see me to have more information. So we're almost running out of time, so I'm going to switch to the last slide. Here. So how complex can we get? So this is a screenshot of an application that we are writing for a client, which uses the library that I just showed you, and it's written in Ember. Finally, I thought I would talk about Ember more. And as you can see, this is quite complex form. It's got a tab set with several tabs. Inside this tab, there's many-to-many for contacts. As you can see on the right, this is the first contact of one, but you can add several contacts. And each contact has several contact mechanisms that you can add. So there's 3 embedded models. This is something quite complex to do, for example, with the admin. If you want to have nested inlines, there is a plugin for that, but it doesn't come out of the box directly. And I'm going to give you a small demo of this application as well. And yes, of course, my tab went to sleep. Okay, and so if you think this is a little bit slow, let me just tell you that this is a Chromebook with only 4 gigs of RAM. It's running Postgres. It's running 5 Django servers, 1 Angular development server, 1 React development server, and 1 Ember development server. So that's why it might be a bit slow. So here we have a small application with a dashboard that allows you to look for stuff. Here, I found a party. I'm going to go visit that party, and it's loading things. It's a bit slow, as I said, and so yeah, it's got all those events. It's got this form, and to be able to write that, to create this, you're saying, okay, yeah, this could be complex to write. Maybe there's a lot of front-end code to be able to write that, to be able to get this form. You would need to write a lot of front-end code, but actually, you don't. Here, I'm going, oops. Where did this go? Okay, so this is all the code I had to write in the front-end to be able to render that form. Here, I'm using a route mixin, a change route mixin, which is provided by a library in Ember. And all I'm doing is that I'm giving to this change form whatever information has been made available by the backend. And this is all that's needed for this application to work. So you can see, as you can see, we can stay really dry with working with front-ends. And now we have, I don't know if we still have time for questions. One question. If you have other questions, please come see me during the sprints or the breaks. And if you want to have help to make custom adapters or things, please come see me during the sprints as well.
Yeah, one question. I didn't see anything about form validation.
About form validation, okay. So the library in Ember does form validation, does front-end form validation on its own. For formally, the library for Angular, the form validation is included in the library. You do have to write a few lines of code as the Angular 2 version, except to initialize some objects. You can still load the data from you will just have to write a few lines of code to initialize the validation on the front end. And for React, the validation is also built in the library. So I didn't demo this, but the validation is built in for most front-end applications. Of course, it depends on which front-end application you want to use to read the data, but it's there.
Yeah, Angular, thanks.
You're welcome. Bye.